4 lines from the top on devolves. And Rebbe is discussing the principle of how a neshama truth, so to speak, a chayus, descends downward, they can say devolves into something very limited and something very concrete, where in essence it is in fact a chayus hanefesh. And the chayus, as we point out all the time, chayus in essence is a godly reality. It is not based on its parameters, on its functional definitions. It's an essential principle, essential truth, a godly truth. Again, not a. We say what principle should not be misconstrued. That we have principle within certain parameters. Under these circumstances, this principle prevails. For example, we're traveling down the road, and there are crossroads. The principle is that you cannot, both sides cannot enter the intersection at the same moment. Because if they do, there's going to be a collision. And there's a principle that has been identified by both, that when it's my turn, I go, and you stay, and you wait me out. This is a principle that has been identified within certain conditions, within certain parameters. Because if you go back to a slightly higher level, the truth is that they both have simultaneous right to be in the intersection. When this one crosses, the other one has no right to be. Of course he has a right to be here. But he's waiting. Intentionally waiting out so that there will be no clash. So that he will exercise his right in a safe manner. But the right is there. So therefore, this is a pshat. You come to the point where it is a sechel, and what's it is something which is definitive, defined on the basis of ta'am usvara, of a reason, where it has come down from a principle of life to a presence, a physical presence. That's what mitzius. It is there to be mitzius. Conceptually, even when you speak at the highest level of principle of life, you want to secure that life. You want it to be safe. Except that on the highest level, life is not vulnerable. But when life comes on into the goof, and it is now functioning in Rizmanu Mokoim, on a worldly platform, then in a certain sense it becomes vulnerable. The truth is, life is never vulnerable. What's vulnerable is the life as it is manifest in the body. But the life as manifest in the body is definitely a principle of life. Life wants to be manifest and in the body and wants to accomplish its purpose in the body. And therefore that limited element of life, at that point it has to be properly guarded. And this guarding, this is where we say there is the right, please my dear friend, there is the right for every living human being to live in the body. And therefore we have to share the intersection. Meaning that you have to organize it in a manner that will give each one a secure way of passage. But this is a principle at a much more limited level than, say, a principle of life, where life, as I said, is not vulnerable altogether. And this is what the Rebbe is explaining. There is the way this principle is in chochmah.
The principle you just explained is a real principle.
I'm sorry?
The principle you just explained, even though it's to do with the body, you're explaining that as a real principle.
It's a real principle. This principle is a derivative of the essence of the principle of life itself, which is higher than vulnerable, which is not vulnerable. But now it comes into the body, and it has a duty, has a mission to function in a multiplicity environment, and therefore there is the need to secure it. And again, due to the fact that this is real life, it has, in other words, it has a mission, a life mission. It has a real principle of life. But here, that principle has to be properly identified. To the extent that while I'm crossing, you cannot cross. Which is really a qualified reality, not an absolute reality. Okay, so now the Rebbe is explaining. So when it comes down into that level, there it can no longer change, so to speak. Yes, indeed, if I'm crossing the street, you cannot cross. If it's my turn, if I have the green light and you have the red light, then that is absolute. That is definitively identified, defined. So he says, no, V'hagam. Okay, 4 lines from the top, please, in the middle of the line. V'hagam, and although the whole sechel, that any sechel, which means as long as there's the element of sechel, gam k'moi shebo b'hasogo, even as it is in the state that shebo b'hasogo, it has now descended to the hasogo level. A full-fledged hasoga. Hasoga means comprehension. I have something to hold on to. I can explain it from every side and angle. B'bchinas tamus vora. Within the realm of tamus vora, where it is not just I'm accepting a principle, but there is a reason. There's a reason. A reason is a mitzias. A reason. Tamas vora means that there is causes for this understanding, which you cannot ignore and bypass. Nevertheless, it is still possible lahatoiso, to turn it, to divert it. Hator means to cause it to lean in one direction or another. Lischus ulchoyv. This is a general, a very general qualifier. Schus ulchoyv. Schus means vindication. Ulchoyv means negative, positive and negative. Like in our example of crossing the cross, it's your turn. No, it's not your turn. It's his turn. You can cross. You can cross. You cannot cross. So that's schus ulchoyv. It is nevertheless. As long as it is sechel, it is still open to being turned, diverted in a different direction. As for example, in our very so to speak, surface example, but it gives us a handle on it. Yes, it is your turn to cross because you have a green light, but I'm taking a patient to the hospital. Stay and let me go. Or something like that. In other words, there is no absolute to this. Because this street is really made for me to cross as well and for you, as if for you. And this same as well, this is like at the most practical and limited level. But it does not eliminate the possibility of me crossing first. Why is that? As we're pointing out all the time, because sechel is actually a derivative, a revelation of something much higher than sechel. The reason that we have this arrangement of safe crossing is because, in fact, we both have the right to cross. The initial right to cross. That right cannot be eliminated totally. It can be formed in a certain limited fashion. But tamus svara, it doesn't eliminate the essential truth. Any sechel can be diverted in any direction, ultimately, even at the point where it becomes a tamus svara. Tam means reason, svara means logic.
Shouldn't according to the svara in chochmah, according to the svara, the closer to the ratzon it is, the less malleable it should be.
The less
malleable, the less
changeable.
But here we're saying the opposite. That in chochmah, it's, and then in bina it's not. But al kol panim it is.
Wait a second. I'm reading your hand, but I want to listen to your mouth.
In chochmah, we're saying the opposite. We're saying in chochmah.
Opposite than what?
Then the higher you go, the less malleable it is. We're saying that in chochmah it's malleable. In bina it's not malleable. But al kol panim it is.
This principle of presentation is not correct. The higher you go, it is totally malleable. Like we say, Mayim. Mayim is doesn't have any definitive place at all.
So this principle that
Because when you say less malleable, you mean to say, like we said, there's a principle of life itself.
right.
Okay. And therefore, since life is an absolute, therefore it's less malleable.
Right.
Please understand, the reason it's not malleable is because it's not vulnerable. Not because it's not malleable. Because you cannot change it. Why? Because whatever you do with it, it remains the same. You understand? It's not that you can change it because it doesn't let you change. It is the same wherever you find it. Okay, there's much to speak about. I think it's sufficient for this. Okay. גם כשהאש על התסר לזכות ולחיים. כמו, as in the very classic example, God be a marble. That's me, right? God be a marble. By the story of the marble. So, what is the marble? The marble was a decision milmaila that the world has come to such a state where it needs to be eliminated. It's no longer retractable. And it has to be eliminated and started all over again. By Mabel it says that Hilo Hoyo Hachiv L'Chayv, that at first there was the Hachiv. Hachiv means the imperative reasoning, L'Chayv, to the negative. That in the accusatory part. Why? From the very reason that we're talking about the human being. The human being, he is the center of this creation. And Yetzer Machshus Liebe. The Yetzer means the design and the pursuit. Machshus Liebe, the thought of his heart, is Rak Kol Hayay. Kuli, it says, Rak Kol Hayay is only evil throughout the day. This is where he's leaning constantly. This is what he's seeking. And therefore, there's nothing left there but to eliminate it. There's nothing to salvage. Then afterwards, after the Mabul already have occurred, and Noach came out and started building the world from the start. Seemingly, the very same reason Chiyuv L'Schus had the imperative reasoning said L'Schus, no, to vindicate and to give him another chance, and not another chance, to give him indefinite chance. Because and it says, look, yes, indeed, to begin with, he starts from evil, and therefore he needs to be directed and controlled. This is not something that's going to happen on its own, but nevertheless, there's a lot of good to be salvaged there and to be brought out. It is true that he is first captive on the evil side. But that evil still contains a lot of good in it. Therefore, it seems that even after that there was a full identification of that state with the reasoning, which means a concrete reasoning that says this is not going to work, he turned around and says, no, within that there is the kernel that does allow it to work. Just have to be a little bit more patient with him.
It's more of a panemius, bringing out more depth, not necessarily.
Essentially, the second variation was Yetzer Leva Odom Ra Mini Urov. He's able from his the formation of Leib Ha'odam is Ra Min Yurav. Min Yurav means from the onset and from his youth. Before he begins to orient himself and to see how the essence of his life, so to speak, in his nefesh, can be coordinated with the world, he is Ra. But then, by application of a sechel and showing how, like we said, showing how actually you both can cross the street. You just have to organize it. You don't have to eliminate each other. And that element is something which is acceptable, which the Yetzer Lev Ha'odam can relate to. Eventually, with the proper preparation, he can relate to. Like we said the other day, you get stuck in traffic and you get all frustrated. And you say, oh, who needs this traffic? But if you stop back and reflect a little further in, reasonably, with recognizing the overall reality, you say, hey, you know what the truth is. Not only do all the other cars around have the same right as you to travel, not only do they have the same right, but they all draw their right from the same source. And if not for that source, there would be nothing. Moreover, if not for their right, you'll be riding on gravel. You will not be riding on paved road. Who built the paved road? Right? When all people got together and decided to build a paved road. Otherwise, you'd be walking with your stick through the brush. So the same svara, it would seem, Eisi hatam gufe chiyuv lischus. It seems the very same reason chiyuv lischus directed to the vindication. So we say that it is possible to change. Hine be'emes. However, in truth, kein hu, it is true, שהשכל והטעם אפשר להשתמש. The sechel element והטעם and the tam. I have to give more definite, more limited, focused translation of the word tam. Efshel lihishtanes is possible to change, to redirect. As we pointed out just a moment ago, the sechel is identified in the reasoning, in the logic. But the real essence of the sechel is not the logic. It is the spirit behind the sechel.
The spirit behind the logic.
Right. Like for example, it is perfectly logical that we should take turns going across the intersection.
Right.
Why should we take turns? In order not to clash? No. Because we both have the right to be there at the same time.
Oh, because we have the right to live.
We have the right to be there.
To be.
The whole world is ours.
Right.
The whole world
Okay.
belongs to you, belongs to me.
Okay.
That's the real sechel.
Okay. Right.
That's the real sechel.
And if we
Yes,
get into a collision, so we're not being anymore.
One second. It's too narrow. This is the sechel element. And this limit, this restraint is only a circumstantial restraint. It does not really take away while you're restrained, you only have the right to the red light doesn't mean that you cannot really cross the street.
Mm.
The street no longer belongs to you, it's not true. Because that's what sechel is. Sechel, as we said all the time, sechel is an oir ha-nefesh that carries within the nefesh the original reality, original truth. That doesn't change. Even at the lowest level where it is tamus love. This is why it is possible even there to be changed. So the word tam, in this case, I have no time to fully this. The word tam in this case, actually, properly the word tam does not mean a reason. Tam means a taste. What makes sense? Right and wrong is tam. From the perspective of right and wrong, there is nothing wrong with you crossing the street even when it's a red light.
But
that cannot be eliminated. But at the time, we can find a completely different direction. All right, this. I'm sorry, I don't want to take go over. So we'll to continue the mitzvah, as we always do. We'll to continue. Okay, you want to? I'll show you what. That's it.